Supple Family Murders, Iowa City, Iowa, 2008. In March of 2008, troubled banker Stephen Supple was facing federal embezzlement and money laundering charges and was set to go on trial in April, accused of stealing more than $500,000 from his former employer. Exactly what happened that night is unclear, but it is alleged that Stephen killed his wife Cheryl and may have attempted unsuccessfully to gas the children and himself in the garage before bludgeoning them to death one by one with a baseball bat. Stephen then called 911 and directed them to the house at 629 Barrington Road, where they found the bodies of his wife Cheryl, 42, and children, Ethan, 10, Seth, 8, Mira, 5, and Eleanor, 3. All 4 children had been adopted from Korea. After phoning the police, Stephen drove the family car into a pylon on Interstate 80, killing himself instantly and leaving behind more questions than answers. Manrique Lutz gassing, Davidson, New South Wales, Australia, 2016. On Monday 17th October 2016, staff at St. Lucy's Primary School became concerned after 2 autistic children and their mother failed to turn up for school. Police were called to conduct a welfare check on the family and made a horrific discovery. Inside the house, they found the bodies of Fernando Manrique, 44, Maria Lutz, 43, and their 2 children, Elisa, 11, and Martin, 10, along with the body of the family dog. There were no signs of a struggle and no visible injuries to any of the family. It was not immediately clear what had happened. It was then a neighbour reported seeing Fernando working on the roof of the family home over the preceding weekend. When police inspected the roof, the case took a strange turn. What police discovered was that Fernando had rigged an elaborate series of pipes and canisters, effectively turning the house into a gas chamber. It has been suggested that both Fernando and Maria, who were originally from Colombia and did not have much family in Australia, were struggling with the day-to-day care of their children, who were both severely autistic and needed round-the-clock care. There is no proof to this theory, however. No suicide note was found, and it remains unclear if Maria knew of Fernando's plans. The George Banks Rampage, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, 1982. In the early hours of September 25, 1982, wasted on gin and prescription drugs, 40-year-old prison guard George Emil Banks snapped. Without warning and before anyone could really react, George loaded his AR-15 semi-automatic rifle and started shooting. His 3 girlfriends were the first to be killed. Regina Clemens, 23, was shot first and killed instantly. Alongside Regina were Dorothy Lyons, also 29, Susan Johas, 23, and George and Susan's 1-year-old daughter, Mauritania. George fired a barrage of bullets, killing all 3 where they sat. He next turned to his 4-year-old son, Bowendi, who had been sleeping beside him. The little boy was not able to comprehend what he had just seen before he was killed with a single shot to the face. George then made his way upstairs towards the bedrooms of his other children. 6-year-old Montanzima was the 6th victim, killed in her bed. In the next room was his 11-year-old daughter Nancy. She attempted to shield her half-brother, 1-year-old Foraronde. It took just 3 shots to kill both children. After killing everyone in the house, George then changed his clothes, opting for military fatigues and a t-shirt that read "Kill them all." Neighbours 22-year-old Jimmy Olsen and 24-year-old Ray Hall Jr. heard the shots and attempted to leave the area, but as they approached their car, they were spotted by George as he left his house. He immediately fired upon the 2 men, killing Hall and injuring Olsen. With his killing spree far from over, George drove to the trailer park home of former girlfriend Sharon Mazzillo. George forced his way into the home, killing Sharon, aged 24, in the process. His 5-year-old son, Kisamayu, was sleeping on the couch. He was killed with a single shot at point-blank range. Sharon's mother, 47-year-old Alice Mazzillo, was hiding in a back bedroom, attempting to call police. George entered the room, placed the gun under her chin, and fired. At that moment, 7-year-old Scott Mazzillo, Sharon's nephew, entered the room. He would be the 13th and final victim. 2 other children, Angelo and Keith Mazzillo, aged 10 and 13, had managed to stay hidden and escaped unharmed. They were able to identify the shooter to police. After a brief time on the run and a 4-hour standoff, George surrendered to police. In June of 1983, he was given 12 death sentences and is currently still on death row. Simmons Family Massacre, Dover, Arkansas, 1987. Between December 22nd and December 28, 1987, Ronald Gene Simmons went on one of the worst family massacres ever seen. First to die on December 22nd, 1987, was Ronald's 46-year-old wife Rebecca and 26-year-old son Gene, who he shot to death before strangling his 3-year-old daughter Barbara. He dumped the 3 bodies in a freshly dug pit on the family's property and waited for more children to return home from school. As the children arrived home, he made them wait outside on the pretext of giving them a gift individually. Then one by one he strangled them. 17-year-old Loretta, 14-year-old Eddie, 11-year-old Marianne, and finally 8-year-old Becky. Their bodies were also dumped in the pit on the property. 4 days later, on December 26, 1987, other family members began arriving at the property for a planned family gathering. First to arrive was Ronald's 22-year-old son Billy, Billy's wife Renata, 21, and their toddler son Trey, just 20 months old. Ronald shot both adults and strangled the toddler. Next to arrive was Ronald's favourite daughter, 24-year-old Sheila, whom he had previously had an incestuous relationship with, fathering a child with her when she was just 17. Sheila arrived with her husband, Dennis McNulty, 6-year-old daughter Sylvia, who was both Ronald's daughter and granddaughter, and their toddler son Michael, who was just 21 months old. Again, Ronald shot both adults dead and strangled the children. The 2 baby boys were wrapped in plastic and placed in 2 separate abandoned cars in the yard. He arranged the other victims in the house neatly in the lounge and covered them with their own coats. Sheila was covered in their best tablecloth. He continued to live in the house for another 2 days, seemingly not bothered by the decaying bodies around him, before driving into town and going on a shooting spree that would leave a further 2 people dead and several more wounded, before calmly turning himself into local police. He was executed by the state of Arkansas by lethal injection in 1990. The final death toll was 16.